Good morning, Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, right here each and every weekday morning with the Center Square here on YouTube. Get the podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus and find news segments and more here at the YouTube channel for the Center Square. And also get the headlines in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com and sign up for the newsletter. All right, so both the Illinois House and Senate are back in session today. They will be coming in midday. I believe the Senate starts at about 11, and the House comes in at noon. They've got committee hearings this afternoon. They'll be in all through Friday, but I do want to give you a programming note. I am off on Friday. I'm actually hitting the road just briefly for a quick weekend jaunt. I may plug you in on what's going on there, but I won't be on live Friday. Just a heads up. All right. So big week, heavy week, couple of weeks coming up. We've got the end of legislative session, so it's going to be pretty high flying there, especially the last few weeks of May, as they've got deadlines. They've got a deadline to pass a budget with simple majorities by May 31st. And that budget could be the largest spending plan in state history. So there's going to be a lot of debate about how your tax dollars are being spent. And we'll continue to discuss all of that and more. Also, this week, we got a couple of big things going on in the space of the Second Amendment with, of course, as we talked about yesterday, the Wednesday deadline for the state to reply to the federal appeals court, a response to the Southern District of Illinois finding the state's gun and magazine ban is unconstitutional. So Wednesday's the deadline for that to be filed. So we'll be tracking that and obviously talking about that Thursday morning. But also Thursday morning, we're going to have to recap what happens at a Wednesday gun violence prevention committee in the Illinois House, because it's expected they'll take up Senate Bill 8, which ultimately would lead to requiring gun owners to lock up their firearms if they're around somebody that isn't supposed to have a firearm or is prohibited from having a firearm. And there's several other elements in that measure, including lost and stolen provisions that could impact gun owners. So clearly that's something that you've got on the plate this week. It's going to be a busy week at the State House in that space. So you might want to just go ahead and bookmark this page, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and just wake up with us each and every weekday morning. Around 8 o'clock sharp, we go live with Illinois in Focus, and a pretty lively bunch of people there in the chat room as well. That you can go back and forth with during the live show. All right, coming back, we'll take a look at something that's going on in Washington, D.C. in regards to the border issues with President Donald Trump and a Honduran in Chicago being the first to utilize a program of self-deportation. So stay tuned. We'll talk about that next here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and click that bell. If you don't get the notifications that you want, you can drop that bell down and select the level of which you want notifications. Just a little bit of YouTube, workings you got to do. All right, it's Illinois in Focus right here with the Center Square. Taxpayers paying $1,000 stipend for those in the country illegally to self-deport. That's just one of the headlines you'll find at thecentersquare.com, and the sub-headline being, well, first to use it was a Honduran in Chicago. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. We'll check this story out from the Center Square contributor, Bethany Blankley, who is on top of what's going on with the border situation. Really, it's kind of fascinating, this particular story with President Donald Trump also talking about this yesterday. But the U.S. Department of Homeland Security announced another incentive for self-deportation, a $1,000 stipend. That announcement comes 2 weeks after President Donald Trump said the agency would be offering stipends to those who self-deport, as the Center Square reported. At a cabinet meeting last month, we had DHS Secretary Kristi Noem also discussing agency efforts to fund plane tickets for those who voluntarily depart as well. So Monday, the DHS announced a historic opportunity for illegal aliens to receive both financial and travel assistance to facilitate travel back to their home country through the CBP Home app. So this is an app that the Biden administration actually had. The Trump administration is repurposing that to, point it the other way, right? The app was something that helped people that were coming into the country. Well, this app now being turned around, and it's going to help get people out by self-deporting. President Donald Trump yesterday talking about this, and he laid out what his rationale is for all of this.
But what we thought we'd do is a self-deport, where we're going to pay each one a certain amount of money, and we're going to get them a beautiful flight back to where they came from, and they have a period of time. And if they make it, we're going to work with them so that maybe someday, with a little work, they can come back in if they're good people, if they're the kind of people that we want in our company, industrious people that could love our country. And if they're not, they won't. But it will give them a path to becoming, to coming back into the country. If they miss that limit, they're going to be taken out of our country, and they will never get a path to come back in. And it'll be a much tougher process. And it's called self-deportation. And by doing that, you're talking about so many millions of people. By doing that, we've taken out thousands of terrorists, drug lords. What we've done is amazing. And I'm sure Tom Homan and Kristi Noem have done an incredible job. They really have done an incredible job. But it's a hard job. So we're going to have a self-deportation where they deport themselves out of our country, and we'll work with them, and we're going to try, and if we think they're good, if they have, the people we want in our country, they're going to come back into our country. We'll give them a little easier route. But if they don't work, and if we take them out after the date, then they're never coming back, and that's the least of the problems.
So President Trump laying out the plan, and obviously there's a little caveat there beyond just $1,000 taxpayer stipend. It's possibly working with the U.S. to have a different path to come back to the United States, but only if they take advantage of the self-deportation. Interesting incentives there, but obviously the taxpayers paying for that. So far, thousands have utilized this, and reportedly the first being a Honduran in Chicago. Now, $1,000, the taxpayer costs, paid after they arrive to their home country using the app. Typically, though, if ICE is involved and agents are on the ground, it can cost $17,000 to deport somebody. So this would be a significant savings for the taxpayer. So how this is going to work out in the long run, especially with all the other considerations that are going on with the legal questions and people working to make due process an issue here, it's a story that's going to continue to develop and evolve. It's every morning and every day, every hour, there are going to be twists and turns to this whole situation, likely for the next 3.5 years. All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. That's just one headline you'll see if you get to the website, thecentersquare.com, where you can also sign up for the newsletter. It's real simple. Just go over there, click on newsletter, and you'll see that you can sign up for headlines coming out of Washington, D.C., and in particular here with Illinois in Focus, a lot of headlines coming out of Illinois. All right, so make that happen. Get the newsletter or the podcast. Where you get podcasts, just search Illinois in Focus Daily. Each and every weekday morning here live on the Center Square, here with YouTube. With just about 3 weeks left before the end of May, Illinois taxpayers still not certain how their tax dollars are going to be spent for the next fiscal year. But we got 3 weeks here. It's Illinois in Focus. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning. A lot of other priorities out there. Obviously, we've seen things impacting education, things impacting immigration, and more. A couple of things that we have yet to hear more about is any kind of pension measures that may impact Tier 2 pensioners. So that clearly is something that has yet to be fully put out there in the open for taxpayers to see how they're going to be impacted by that before the end of May. Clearly, the budget's another big one, but something else that still has yet to be surfaced entirely is any kind of regulations on the hemp industry in Illinois. So waiting for the budget. Waiting for pensions. What about hemp? State Representative Marty McLaughlin last month, he took to the House floor and told his colleagues after, last year, we covered this a bit, there was a lot of discussion about hemp regulations with news conferences of people holding up, counterfeit looking Skittles packages saying this isn't Skittles, this is Skittles with a Z, and it's got Delta 8 in it, which is a chemically altered substance derived from hemp. Hemp obviously is a different plant than the marijuana plant. They're both of the cannabis family, but it's not the same, not nearly as intoxicating. But you can derive certain types of hemp to have CBD, and then you can refine that and concentrate it and do all kind. I'm not a chemist or a botanist or whatever or an agro scientist, but just on a surface level, I kind of understand what's going on there. It's distillation, right? Kind of like what they do with alcohol. They do the same thing with cannabis oils, as they do the same thing with corn oils and such. But anyways, so the hemp plant, when it was ultimately allowed to be grown through a federal farm bill back in, I think, 2018, opened up the market. And you could have hemp as flour, you could have hemp as textile, you could have hemp as oil. And then Illinois brought about the legal cannabis industry for marijuana consumption above 21, recreational purposes. We had the medical side of cannabis or marijuana for several years before that. So in that structure, they didn't necessarily wrap in hemp. So now hemp's been out there somewhat unregulated in Illinois. And Governor J.B. Pritzker, even last year, joining these news conferences saying, hey, this is bad stuff. This Delta 8 stuff getting into the hands of kids, we need to regulate this. Well, a Republican who doesn't really agree with the governor much at all agrees with him on this. Here's Marty McLaughlin.
In my 4.5 years in this chamber, I constantly hear we need to protect the children. And on this issue, I rarely agree with the governor. And Governor, 99.8% of the time I'm against you, but I'm with you on this one. The governor's right. We have well-established regulatory system for legal cannabis. So why the hesitation here, my friends?
So McLaughlin highlighting how, there's no real regulation, and he agrees with some Democrats that want to make hemp more regulated. But when you get to it, not all the Democrats are in agreement on this. A lot of Democrats pushing back because they have constituents that put blood, sweat, and tears into their hemp business in Illinois. Here's Craig Katz. He is with the Illinois Healthy Alternatives Association. It's a group of hemp industry businesses coming together to advocate on their own behalf at the Illinois State House. And Katz talks about how hemp is different than marijuana, and there's tons of different products that hemp can produce.
Hemp-derived products include everything from balms that you can rub on your joints to make your rheumatoid arthritis feel better, tinctures that you can put under your tongue that will help alleviate pain, and we don't make medical claims, just so we're clear on that. There are beverages that people can imbibe that are non-alcoholic, which is an alternative to a lot of the alcoholic beverages that are out there. No hangovers, less calories, things like that. Gummies obviously are something that we do, but we don't do the gummies that you see out in some of the packaging that the governor has held out as an example of bad products. So there's a whole wide range of products, both for adults and for pets.
So Kat's talking about the different types of products available for hemp products and how the market is growing more and more and more. But he says, listen, there are some regulations that can be had, but they have to be common sense regulations that doesn't just kill the hemp industry in Illinois.
We are trying to make sure that the regulations that are passed will both protect children and consumers, as well as the members of the industry who have put forth their blood, sweat, and tears to establish businesses. But what we don't want to see happen is we don't want to see hemp products banned entirely. We certainly don't want to see the hemp industry put into the same CRTA as the marijuana industry is in currently. We don't want to see beverage cutouts where every product other than beverages are banned. So basically, those are the three things that we're concerned about the most.
And he also discusses how the taxes on hemp could really help out Illinois, but they're not taxed necessarily at a different rate. Now, he's not advocating for, and you may have heard a acronym in there, the Cannabis Tax Act, and that is what Illinois has that allows for up to 46% tax on cannabis products, depending on the potency of the THC in cannabis, which is the psychoactive drug that makes people, quote unquote, high. So you've got, different potencies coming with different tax rates, but it could be up to like 46%. And then the locals could tack on another 3% on top of that. So the tax on legal cannabis for adult consumption is arguably high. And a lot of that money is split up all kinds of different ways. I know people always ask, well, how's that money being used? Well, some of it's going to certain communities that were impacted negatively by the war on drugs. Some of it's going to law enforcement. Some of it's going to health campaigns. Some of it's going to pensions, I believe. So all that money is split up a bunch of different ways. But when it comes to, the hemp industry, while they may not want to have a 46% tax on something like hemp, they do say that some kind of tax structure on hemp could help and benefit the Illinois budgets.
Well, in Illinois, the hemp industry is a billion-dollar industry. And right now, it's not regulated in such a way as to provide additional taxation, which is a revenue source that the state badly needs. So part of our proposal for regulations and legislation would include a tax structure that would drive revenue for the state. Pretty hard to turn something like that down in this kind of an atmosphere.
So how does this play out, though, with just 3 weeks left for legislative session? Have we seen any advancements of hemp-related bills? I haven't really, seen that myself. Obviously, we do have a lot of closed-door meetings that happen at the State House. Sometimes they're called working groups, but we don't really get to see what's going on in there and the conversations that are being had. So we'll have to wait and watch to see if these ideas come to fruition before the end of the month. It's going to be interesting as the governor, again, last year heralded this idea, but some internal Democratic differences kept this from advancing last year. Is this the year that it's going to happen? Again, we'll watch and see. So, Katz, he says, a lot of people say that hemp have bad actors, but that shouldn't cast aspersions amongst the entire hemp industry in Illinois.
Well, I think the real thing that's important is that people need to know that the hemp industry is not the bad actors that many of the political figures hold up at press conferences that look alike products like Doritos or Skittles or things like that. The good actors in the hemp industry, the people in our association, sell products that are tested, they're labeled properly. We don't sell to anybody who's under 21 years of age. So we need to try to educate the public as well as the politicians on the fact that we are in favor of strong regulation to protect the consumers.
So the hemp industry advocating, obviously, for what they said was sensible regulations. Have yet to see that go forward. But what we do see going forward is measures like this, We talked about briefly last week banning styrofoam, polystyrene, single-use food containers. State Senator Laura Fine had that measure last week advance out of the Senate, and now the House can take that up.
This legislation prohibits the sale and use of styrofoam food containers in 5 years, giving companies a long ramp to prepare. If we destroy our clean water because we want to use a product for 60 seconds and then do damage to our aquatic life and human life for the next hundreds and hundreds of years, that is us being selfish. This is our time to stand up to make sure that we have a cleaner, safer place for our children and our grandchildren to grow, live, and thrive.
So again, the legislation advancing out of the Senate, despite questions about how it's going to impact small businesses. Republican State Senator Lee Arellano from Dixon, he said, listen, as a small business advocate, we've got to consider how this is going to impact them, even if there is a long 5-year ramp up to banning single-use polystyrene food containers.
When we lead with the mandate and fine side, even given the number of years that was built into this, which again, I appreciate, I think we need to understand that regulations and mandates have different impacts in different rungs of society. And where they hit the hardest is on those without legal departments, on those without the kind of resources it takes to resource their product lines.
And that could take a while with a lot of investment and whatnot. Rarely do I glance over at the live comments and see something that just sticks out. But just a live comment from Dangerous Liberty. There you go. Hemp paper containers. I'm not, advocating one way or another here, but that's an interesting kind of, I didn't think of that, a confluence of these two topics. Good stuff there, Dangerous Liberty. All right, but anyways, back to the debate. Clearly, this measure advanced, but you had the likes of State Senator Chris Balkema, Republican from Shanahan, who talked about the impact on the business sector, on manufacturers in the state of Illinois, if this was to happen, banning the sale of polystyrene containers in the next 5 years.
One particular food service container production facility in Aurora, Illinois employs 165 people, a majority of which are minority employees. So Senate Bill 1531 purposefully reduces possible customers for impacting these needs and therefore impacting a whole lot of jobs.
So you got jobs that are going to be impacted here, but the Senate President Don Harmon, he says, "Listen, it's a new era we're in."
But we're moving towards something new. So I applaud Senator Fine. This is a pro-business bill with the support of the restaurants and the retail merchants who are the most directly impacted. It's a 5-year phase-in.
5-year phase-in that some businesses still say could impact them. Nonprofits could still be impacted, and egg cartons won't be. You'll still be able to get styrofoam egg cartons, apparently. But the also interesting point here is what kind of impact it's going to have on the manufacturing base. Because, listen, you'll be able to manufacture polystyrene in Illinois. You just can't sell it in Illinois. You could sell it to people in Indiana. You could sell it to people in Missouri, in Kentucky, in Iowa, but you can't sell it to people in Illinois. One of the questions that was brought up during debate, and I imagine some people in the House when this comes up there will bring it up as well, but what if a company in Illinois manufactures polystyrene, sells it to a company in Indiana, and then a separate, unrelated company buys that polystyrene from that Indiana company, brings it back to Illinois to utilize it here? Are they going to get a $1,000 fine? Again, we'll be watching this, trying to distill it down, make sense for it, but clearly interesting priorities on display at the State House. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us each and every weekday morning as we wake you up here for Illinois in Focus Daily. Gonna wrap things up a little earlier today. Still got some things got to get taken care of before the legislature comes back into session. But I want to remind you to like and get the latest newsletter headlines in your inbox, or just go to thecentersquare.com, the Illinois page. You'll get those headlines right there. You can look at People's Gas. Are you in the Chicagoland area? Do you utilize People's Gas? Well, rate hikes could be coming, so read up on that. You got Jan Schakowsky announcing she's not going to be running for another term in U.S. Congress. So that's going to open up that congressional seat. We also have, tourism numbers and the discussion around tourism and so much more. Plus, Chicago's based Bally's Casino dropping the minority requirements for their initial public offering. And that's after the Liberty Justice Center sued. So just some of the headlines, all right? Get over there, thecentersquare.com. Get that newsletter. Donate. We're a nonprofit newswire service that depends on your donations, so make that happen. But obviously, another way you can help out is just to share the Center Square YouTube, wherever you are, with your friends, family. Get them plugged in here, especially with the live show here, Illinois in Focus Daily. You guys have a great rest of your Tuesday, right? It's only Tuesday. Programming note, reminder, I'm off on Friday. But we should still have Illinois in Focus Weekend Edition for you. So have a great Tuesday, guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of Illinois in Focus Daily.